Drizzt, famed drow hero of the Forgotten Realms. So let's put him into Baldur's Gate 3. Now, this will be our usual level 1 to 12 build guide as well as a combat tutorial, but this will not be the most OP or the most min-max build you can do. There is no official 5e stat block for Drizzt, and any online only go up to level 20. Baldur's Gate 3 is obviously capped at level 12, so we do have to adapt some stuff to try and get as pure of a build as we can. So, with all that being said, let's get started. We are going to start with the Fighter class. Now, Drizzt is a dual-wielding, two-handed person, so we're going to start with the Fighter class. This gives us access to a bunch of proficiencies, as well as things such as Second Wind. For your fighting style, we're going to take two-weapon fighting. Like I said, he's a dual-wielder, and this gives us extra ability modifier damage per strike. Amazing. Okay, for our stats, we're going to leave it something along the lines of this. Ideally, you want your main stat to be Dexterity, and you want your secondary stat to be Constitution, as well as a buff to Wisdom for reasons we will see. So this would be how I finally leave it. 17 Dex, 15 Con, and 14 Wisdom. For your skill proficiencies, I would take Acrobatics and Athletics. I think these are the most thematical. You could also take other things such as Animal Handling, because he does have his Summoned Panther, or Insight. I think that's another good one as well. Survival as well would make a lot of sense in my opinion. Okay, for level 2 we're sticking with Fighter. This gives us access to Action Surge, which is in my opinion one of the best abilities, not only in the game but also just in Baldur's Gate in general. This gains you an extra action per turn, but this is a one and done, so you can't just continuously use it every turn. It's once per short or long rest. I think it's a short rest. For level 3 we are sticking with Fighter. This gives us access to our specialization, and we are doing the Battle Master. Now, the Battle Master gives us a plethora of maneuvers, and there's a few options you can take here. My favorite is Trip Attack and Sweeping Attack. Sweeping Attack allows you to sweep your weapon in a rapid motion, and you hit everyone in the arc. It's amazing. We have Riposte, so when a hostile creature misses you with a melee attack, you can spend these dice to hit them back, and you get additional 1d8 damage. Very good option. Very, very good option in my opinion. As I said, Trip Attack, suspend a dice to make an attack that deals an additional 1d8 damage and can possibly knock the target prone, which is amazing. Knocking a target prone, awesome. And one of my personal favourites, Disarming Attack. I always overlook this, but after having it done to me multiple times in this game, I think Disarming Attack is so good to make an enemy drop their weapon and have to pick them back up. Therefore, only hitting you with their fists or whatever they've got, especially if they're like a roguish person. And obviously if you are playing as a drow, and I assume you will as a Drizzt build, Fairy Fire is an amazing spell to use. You gain advantage on all attacks. Okay, level 4. So with this build, you can really do it in any order you see fit, whatever works for your playstyle and your party composition. I am just going to do it in the order I think best. So, we're going to dip into Barbarian. The reason being is Barbarian has Rage, and in the novels, Drizzt has this Hunter sort of state, where he gained it in the Underdark, and essentially he just gives into his animalistic side, and it's almost like a rage. Okay, level 5, we're dipping back into Fighter. Not only do we gain Darkness, which is another really good Drizzt spell that he has, because of our drow features, but we're sticking with the Barbarian, or with the Fighter, sorry, to gain the level, or the ASI. Now, for the feat, or ASI, the ability improvement is obviously key to get your dex as high as possible, but this will depend on whatever equipment you have. There are a few other feats you can take here, should you choose to. Durable is a good one, especially if you can keep bumping the con up. Defensive Duelist is really good, so when you have a finesse weapon, you can use your reaction to add efficiency bonus to your armor class. One of my personal favourite feats in all of Dungeons & Dragons and this game is Mobile. Not only do when you dash, it doesn't become hard territory for you to walk over, your movement speed is increased, and if you make a melee attack against an enemy, you do not provoke opportunity attacks. Please note it's only one and done. If you are surrounded by 3 people and you hit one of them, the other 2 can still hit you. And Savage Attacker. When making melee weapon attack, you roll your damage, and you roll your damage and you take the highest of the options. At this point in time, I would take the air side, and I would bump up my dex and my constitution just to gain a plus in both. Okay, we're now level 6 in total, and we're sticking with the fighter class to gain that extra attack. This can be very helpful for being a big DPS character, just like Drizzt is. Okay, level 7, and now we're dipping into our next multi-class. This is what Drizzt is more famed for being, and it is of course the Ranger. Now, we're not being a Beastmaster. Reason being is the Panther that Drizzt has isn't actually a companion per se, it's part of his summons. So, we're going with a different one for that. For favoured enemy, there are a few options here. You have Bounty Hunter, you have Keeper of the Void, you have Ranger Knight, but in my opinion, Mage Breaker is the key one. Natural Explorer as well, there are two options in my opinion. Urban Tracker, so you are basically an expert of the wild, and you gain proficiency in Sleight of Hand. This is really good if you don't have a Thief or a Rogue or something, and you want to be a more dex-based thing. Or Wasteland Wanderer, Poison, and this is because in one of the novels, Drizzt just resists poison, and it's perfect. I personally would take Urban Tracker depending on what party I have, but if you have a decent Rogue or you have a decent Lockpick, whatever, Wasteland Wanderer is your option here. And for your next proficiency, we're going to go with Investigation. Okay, level 8, and we're sticking with Ranger because we want to get that specialization. Now for your spells, I would go with things that can really buff you. So I would take something along the lines of Enhanced Leap and Long Strider. I just think these are going to be a bit better for what you want to do as opposed to any of the other spells. We won't really be using a bow in this build, it's going to be dual wielding, so Hail of Thorns, something like that, isn't really ideal. For your fighting style, Defense, you get a +1 to armor class. Again, you could do archery, because Drizzt does use a bow, but this build isn't really set up for that. So I would just take Defense, because you get +1 to armor class while wearing armor, and you will most definitely be wearing armor. It's a no-brainer. Okay, we're sticking with Ranger for level 3, because it is time for us to get that specialization. Now, before we do that, we have to pick our spell, and there's not really anything here I would feel like taking. I think there is only one really good option, and that'd be Hunter's Mark. And for subclass, we are taking the Gloomstalker, probably one of my favourite subclasses in all of Dungeons & Dragons. I love this. We get Umbral Shroud, so we can turn invisible. We get Dread Ambusher Hide. We get Disguise Self. We get Superior Dark Vision. And we get Dread Ambusher. +3 to initiative. And on the first turn of combat, movement speed is increased by 3 meters, and you can make an attack that deals an additional 1d8 damage. So, phenomenal. It's basically an extra attack, which will stack with the other ones we have. Just please note, it is once per combat, not once per turn. For level 10, we're going to stick with the Ranger to get access to the feat. Now, as I said before, you could take the air size. However, I personally here would dip into your feats, and I would take, there's just a number of options here, as I stated before. You could do Mobile, you could do Savage Attacker. If you really felt like it, maybe something like Sentinel. I would take Mobile, hands down. The option to attack and run away, and dance around the battlefield, like I've spoken about a few times, immensely good. Okay, we're at level 11, and we're going to stick with Fighter for both of these. Reason being is, not only do we get a feat at level 6, and for this one, the only option I believe is Savage Attacker to get the highest DPS damage output possible. But at level 7, for Fighter, we gain another superiority dice, which means we can use extra maneuvers. You could take Ranger level 5 for another extra attack and Misty Step, but I don't know if the extra attacks stack here. I'm unsure on that. I haven't tested it. Now we get 2 more maneuvers, and there are a few options here. So we have Fainting Attack. You can use both your actions or your bonus action and your action to attack with advantage. I think that's good early game. Late game, probably not as much in all honesty. I would take Menacing Attack, so you make an attack that deals an additional 1d8 damage and can possibly frighten the target. And Fright is a great ability in here. And Pushing Attack to do the This is Sparta. Not only do you get the 1d8 additional damage, but you potentially just throw people off ledges. What's not to love? Okay, so that is our Drizzt build, level 1 to 12. We're going to go get some equipment, very basic equipment, and we're going to go get some battle started, and we'll test it out. Okay, so we've picked some combat. Now please note, we are using very basic equipment here. We have 2 daggers and some leather armor. It's not the usual Drizzt setup, but it's not bad. So, we're going to test out a few of our features. Now, first things first, see we have a multiple of options here for combat. We have our rage, we have a bunch of superiority dice, Dread Ambusher, the Gloomstalker feature. You get to do that once per combat as your very first move. And it's just a free attack, and it's so good because it's buffed damage coupled with Savage Attacker. Okay, so let's check out some of our battle maneuvers. So this is disarming attack. Now unfortunately they saved, but if they hadn't, they would drop their weapon. And you can see, because we have an extra attack, we can actually use another superiority dice to do this. We can also trigger our rage. And because that's technically a bonus action, we still have a chance to now do more attacks. So this time, let's do a triple attack, for example. And there you go, fallen to the floor. Now, this is very basic equipment. I think both of my daggers are +1. If you've got yourself some really good scimitars, like Drizzt uses, or short swords, you can have even higher damage output here. Okay, we're back to our drow friend's turn. So, let's just do a very basic attack. That is our action and our bonus action used. And, as I stated with mobile, we are now free to just run away. And it has not triggered an attack of opportunity. So when I say about dancing around the battlefield, that's how good it is. We can then come back in with another action and do a disarming attack. Now for some reason he used his bow, not sure why, I must have picked the ranged one. But we can hit an action surge as well. And we can do another superiority dice attack if we wanted to. We could do normal attacks. So for example, let's do a trip attack, or a pushing attack, sorry. Fortunate critical miss, that's not what you want to see during a guide, but that's okay. We'll try it again. And there you go. If you're on a balcony and you do this, you can just, this is Sparta them, like I mentioned, and they will go flying. And we're back to our drowish friend here. Now we haven't even used second wind yet because we've taken no damage this entire combat, which is amazing for a frontliner. This is one of the best things about having mobile. So let's come back in here and we'll do another trip attack. Now unfortunately they saved, but you see that's 14 damage. And then we can run up here and we can hit this one. So if you're in a situation where you want to chase someone down, you have to run through some enemies, you now have the option with mobile to stop, swing at them, and because we've got so many extra attacks and action surge and stuff like that, you can still chase down the enemy you want, which is even easier coupled with our movement increase thanks to mobile and things like that. Alright, and this should be the kill shot. Now, thanks to our extra attack, there you go. And that is how this build works. It's a great combination between Barbarian Rage to take less damage. It's a combination of Savage Attack to maximize your DPS, your battle maneuvers to help you on the battlefield and to help your allies and knock people prone. Having Gloomstalker to get the extra attack first, as well as mobile to just pour out extra damage and be able to run around and all sorts. Again, it's not the most OP build, and it's not going to be the most thematical, because a lot of people use Drizzt as a monk in some aspects, but for 12 levels, I really think this is the ultimate Drizzt DPS drow build. Let me know what you think in the comments below, if you've enjoyed or not. If you have, please drop the episode a like, helps me amazingly. If you're new and you're not subscribed, you'd like to, that'd also be amazing, and hopefully guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.